Imagine a manuscript written 25 centuries ago that lays out a detailed map of a coming world war, a document hidden for generations, locked away from the public eye for fear of mass panic, a text that today reads like an intelligence briefing on modern geopolitical events. This isn't science fiction. This is the book of the prophet Daniel, when Roman legions crushed Jerusalem, when Byzantium ruled half the known world, when empires rose and fell like tides. This text waited. And now its time has come. Today, we'll break the code that will forever change your understanding of both the past and the near future. We'll uncover the prophecy of the army from the north, a force destined to appear in the final days, triggering humanity's last battle. Chapter 12 of the book of Daniel. 7 verses that remained an enigma for theologians for millennia. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince who stands watch over your people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation. But what comes next is even more astonishing. In chapters 10 and 11, the prophet sees visions of a king of the north who, at the time of the end, will rise with a vast army. The geographic clues he gives, you can find them on any modern map, north of Israel. Look at the globe. What's there? Turkey. Further north, Georgia and Armenia. Beyond that, Russia. Beyond that, the Arctic territories rich in resources, where a silent war is already underway. But this isn't just about geography. It's about symbolism woven through the entire fabric of human history. In biblical tradition, the north has always been a source of danger. From the north came the Assyrians. From the north, Babylonian conquerors. From the north, the might of Rome. And today, threats are once again pouring in from the north. Not just military ones, economic, energetic, informational. The army of the 21st century isn't just tanks and fighter jets. It's cyberattacks that can paralyze entire nations in hours. It's energy control that brings the world's most powerful economies to their knees. It's information flows that rewire the minds of millions. 2 years ago, the world changed forever. An event long considered impossible in the modern age became real. A full-scale invasion, one European nation attacking another. And it came from the north. A coincidence? Maybe. But Daniel didn't just speak of geography. He spoke of time. In the last days, at the time of the end. And these times they have signs. Markers you can't ignore. Natural disasters now reach biblical proportions. Earthquakes, floods, wildfires, these were all foretold as signs of the end. Pandemics that grind the world to a halt. Economic collapses that topple centuries-old systems. And now a war that splits the globe into 2 camps. A war that began in the north and threatens to escalate into global conflict. But here's the question that will echo through this entire video. What if it's not a coincidence? What if we're living in a moment where ancient prophecies are coming true literally? What if the army from the north isn't a metaphor, but a very real force already knocking at our door? For the next 39 minutes, we'll examine this mystery piece by piece. We'll see how ancient texts unveil modern events. We'll explore why now more than ever these prophecies matter. And maybe, by the end of this journey, you'll realize what's happening in our world today may not be just another chapter in history. It may be the final act of humanity's greatest drama written long before we were born. Ready for answers? Then let's continue. But be warned, some truths change you forever. To understand the present, we must return to the beginning. The year is 600 before Christ. Babylon. A young Hebrew exile named Daniel receives a vision so powerful, it leaves him physically ill for days. In this vision, the future of the world is unveiled. Not in abstract terms, but with astonishing precision, events, names, dates. And among all the prophecies, one figure appears again and again, the King of the North, and in his place shall arise a vile person, who imposes taxes on the glorious kingdom. But within a few days he shall be destroyed, not in anger nor in battle. Chapter 11 of Daniel reads like a chronicle of future events, written centuries before they unfold. But who is this King of the North? For centuries theologians have debated. Some saw him as Antiochus Epiphanes, others as Roman emperors. But Daniel speaks of the time of the end, and that time had not yet come during either Antiochus or Rome. Let's look at the map through the prophet's eyes. North of Jerusalem, what did he see? First the Syrian deserts, then the mountains of Turkey. Beyond that the Black Sea, and the land the Greeks once called Scythia. And beyond Scythia vast plains, home to peoples unknown to the ancient world. Today we know this land. It's Russia, the largest country on Earth, spanning 1/6 of the planet's landmass. A nation that controls the world's largest reserves of natural gas, oil, and rare metals. A country with the biggest nuclear arsenal on Earth. Russia wasn't always this powerful. For most of the 20th century, the world was split between two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. The Cold War, the nuclear standoff, a tense balance of terror. Then came 1991, the collapse of the USSR. It seemed the West had triumphed. Francis Fukuyama even declared the end of history. American dominance appeared unshakable. But Daniel saw something different. At the time of the end, the King of the South shall push at him, and the King of the North shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots, horsemen, and many ships. Double quotes. 20 years ago, a new leader came to power in Russia. A former intelligence officer, determined to restore his country's greatness. Step by step, methodically, he began. 2008, the war in Georgia. The first signal. The world dismissed it as a local conflict, unaware it was a rehearsal for what was to come. 2014, Crimea is annexed. For the first time since World War II, Europe's borders are changed by force. The world protested, imposed sanctions, yet could do little. 2015, Russia intervenes in the Syrian war. A return to the Middle East, exactly the region where ancient prophecies placed the final events. And then 2022. A full-scale invasion of Ukraine. A seismic event that shattered the global order. But this isn't just about geopolitics. It's about the unfolding of an ancient script. Daniel wasn't only describing political maneuvers, he was revealing a spiritual war behind them. Many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, others to shame and everlasting contempt. The 20th year of the 21st century became a year of global awakening. Not just political, but spiritual. People across the world began to talk about God, prophecy, the end of days. Interest in the Bible surged, even among those who had never cared before. Now look at the modern world through Daniel's eyes. East versus West, traditional values versus liberalism, a multipolar world rising against Western hegemony. Russia now positions itself not just as a nation, but as a civilization, a spiritual heir to Byzantium, a guardian of orthodox values, a challenger to the Western world. And here we arrive at the heart of the matter. Daniel's prophecy isn't only about geography and power, it's about worldviews. The clash of two visions of humanity's future. On one side, liberal democracy, individual rights, technological progress. On the other, traditional hierarchy, sacred order, spiritual identity. The war raging in Ukraine isn't just about land. It's about the soul of civilization. And Daniel foresaw a battle just like this. At the end of days. The only question that remains, are we prepared for what he predicted next? Prophecies aren't vague metaphors. They're maps, detailed blueprints of future events. And the most precise of them all lies in chapter 11 of the book of Daniel. He shall come and overwhelm many, sweeping through like a flood. He shall continue the war even to the fortress. Double quotes. Every word here carries geographic weight. Every phrase points to a specific place on today's map. Let's begin at the center, the Holy Land. This is the axis around which all biblical prophecy revolves. From here, the prophets measured directions north, south, east, west. But these weren't just compass points, they were spiritual vectors, shaping human history. Now, let's overlay that ancient map onto our modern world. What we'll see may shock you. North of Israel. First stop Lebanon, governed by Hezbollah, a group backed by Iran. Next, Syria, a nation devastated by over a decade of war, where Russia plays a dominant role. Further north, Turkey, a country once again asserting itself as a major regional power, walking a tightrope between NATO and Russia, between the West and the East. Beyond Turkey, Georgia, parts of which are effectively controlled by Russia. Abkhazia and South Ossetia too, breakaway regions under the Russian umbrella. And finally, Russia itself, a colossal state stretching from Europe to the Pacific Ocean, a country sharing borders with China to the east and Norway to the west. But Daniel didn't just see a map, he saw a strategy. He shall stretch out his hand against countries, and Egypt shall not escape. In ancient times, Egypt controlled the Suez Canal, a vital artery between Europe and Asia. Today, 12% of all global trade passes through that canal. Whoever controls it controls global commerce. And what do we see now? Egypt gradually turning toward Russia and China, distancing itself from its traditional alliance with the U.S. and the Libyans, and the Ethiopians shall follow at his heels. Libya is now a divided state embroiled in civil war, one side backed by Russia, the other by Turkey. Ethiopia, perched on the Horn of Africa, controls access to the Red Sea, a critical strategic point. But the most fearsome weapon of the king of the north, it isn't tanks or missiles. It's energy. Russia controls 40% of the world's natural gas reserves, a third of its oil, vast stores of uranium essential for nuclear energy. For decades, Europe built its economy around Russian gas. Germany, Europe's industrial giant, relied on Russia for up to 60% of its gas. This wasn't just trade, it was dependence. When the war in Ukraine began, that dependency turned into a weapon. Russia used its energy resources as leverage. Gas prices soared. Factories shut down. European citizens suddenly realized the heat in their homes was controlled by decisions made in the Kremlin. He shall enter the glorious land, and many shall stumble. In biblical terms, the glorious land always meant Israel. But how could armies from the north reach it? Look at the map again. The Black Sea rushes. Inland naval stronghold. The Mediterranean under Russian influence via its Tartus naval base in Syria. The Caspian Sea, also within Russia's grasp. And then there's the Arctic. Climate change is making the northern sea route navigable year-round. It's now the shortest path between Europe and Asia, and it's entirely under Russian control. But the Arctic isn't just ice. It holds some of the richest untapped resources on Earth: oil, gas, rare metals. Some geologists believe up to 30% of the world's undiscovered oil lies beneath the Arctic ice. But news from the east and the north shall alarm him, and he shall go forth in great fury to destroy and annihilate many. East of Russia? China. South? India. The two greatest economies after the United States. What are we witnessing today? Russia, China, and India forming a counterweight to the West. BRICS, an economic alliance, positioning itself as an alternative to the G7. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization, a security pact that unites nearly half of humanity. Between these powers lie mountain ranges, the Himalayas, the Pamir, the Tian Shan. Through these ancient passes once flowed the Silk Road. Today, China is resurrecting the Silk Road under the Belt and Road Initiative. But it's more than just infrastructure, it's a reimagining of global power, shifting the world's center of gravity from the Atlantic to Eurasia. And he shall plant the tents of his palace between the seas and the glorious holy mountain. The holy mountain is Jerusalem. The seas, the Mediterranean. Today, Russia's military presence spans this region. Bases in Syria, naval patrols in the Mediterranean, diplomatic networks that stretch from Israel to Iran. And here's the mystery. All of this is happening exactly as Daniel's map, drawn 25 centuries ago, foretold. Coincidence? Or a pattern encoded deep within the structure of history? The real war of the 21st century is not fought on traditional battlefields. It's waged in cyberspace, in data streams. In the minds of people. It's a war of shadows where armies fade into the background, and invisible forces take the lead. The prophet Daniel foresaw this war centuries before it began. And forces shall be mustered by him, and they shall defile the sanctuary fortress. Then he shall remove the daily sacrifice and cast truth to the ground. He shall do as he pleases and prosper. To cast truth to the ground. Isn't that exactly what we're witnessing today? The age of post-truth. Fake news, alternative facts? A reality so blurred even the line between fact and fiction seems to vanish. 2007. Estonia, a small Baltic nation, suddenly finds itself the target of the world's first cyber war. Russian hackers cripple banks, government websites, communication systems. In mere hours, the country is digitally cut off. It was only a rehearsal. Then came cyberattacks on Georgia during the 2008 war. Then the 2016 U.S. elections. Then the infamous attacks on Ukraine's power grid, leaving entire regions without electricity. Today, thousands of cyberattacks happen daily. Russian hacking groups with names like movie villains, Fancy Bear, Cozy Bear, sandworm. They infiltrate nuclear plant systems, steal classified data, sabotage critical infrastructure. But the most devastating weapon of the Army of Shadows is not digital, it's informational. Russia Today, Sputnik, and a swarm of social media bots. They don't just spread propaganda, they erode our very ability to distinguish truth from lies. Take any major global incident in recent years: the poisoning of the scribes, downing of flight MH17, national elections within hours. Dozens of conflicting narratives flood the media. Some true, some half-true, many outright false. The average person is overwhelmed, paralyzed, confused. And when people no longer know what to believe, they become easy to control. But the information war is only one layer. The Army of Shadows is built from thousands of influence agents around the world: politicians, journalists, businessmen, public figures. Many don't even realize whose agenda they're advancing. How does this work? A Russian oligarch buys a football club in England. Seems harmless, just business. But that club becomes a hub of soft power. British politicians attend games, befriend the oligarch, and slowly enter a web of influence. Years later, those same politicians vote against strict sanctions, not because they were bribed, but because they see a human face behind the regime. They can't imagine their charming acquaintance is tied to state crimes. Energy is another tool of the Shadow Army. Nord Stream, Turk Stream, South Stream, a network of gas pipelines wrapping around Europe. Each one not just an economic artery, but a conduit of political leverage. Former European leaders, once out of office, receive high-paying roles in Russian energy firms. Gerhard Schroeder, ex-German Chancellor, chairs Rosneft. Francois Fillon, former French Prime Minister, joined Cyber. Coincidence? Or a calculated strategy of creating a web of loyalty within Europe's elite? As the Romans said, money has no smell. Today, that idea fuels the fourth weapon of the Shadow Army - capital. Russian money flows worldwide, building silent dependencies. London is now nicknamed Londongrad. Tens of billions of Russian dollars saturate British banks, real estate, investment funds. But the real story isn't just the money, it's how that money shapes policy. For years, British politicians turned a blind eye to its origins. The London Stock Exchange listed shady Russian companies. Courts protected the interests of oligarchs. And there's yet another dimension, one rarely discussed openly: the spiritual weapon. The Russian Orthodox Church is not just a religious institution. It's a powerful arm of the Kremlin's soft power. It maintains parishes across the globe, in the U.S., Canada, Europe, serving millions of faithful. But these churches don't just preach. They shape worldviews. When Russia goes to war, Moscow's priests bless the weapons. When the Kremlin attacks the West, church media echoes the same message. When public support is needed, the church becomes a powerful megaphone. Daniel saw this system as one cohesive mechanism. Then I saw a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, exceedingly strong. It had huge iron teeth. The fourth beast isn't a nation. It's a system, a web of invisible ties that stretches across the world. Each node, business, energy, media, faith, working toward the same goal, often without realizing it. An oligarch buys a London mansion. Suddenly, a British MP softens his stance. A gas pipeline is built and entire European economy becomes energy dependent. Hacker disables a power grid, a government loses control. Overnight. But the most terrifying part of the army of shadows? It wears civilized masks. Russian diplomats speak of peace while the military prepares for war. Russian businessmen invest abroad while intelligence services plot sabotage. On February 24th, 2022, the masks fell. The army of shadows stepped into the daylight. Information warfare became kinetic strikes. Cyber weapons gave way to missiles. Energy became a tool of economic strangulation. And the most chilling realization? All of this was foretold in ancient texts. He shall succeed until the indignation is accomplished, for what has been determined shall be done. Indignation ends when the mission is complete, and the mission of the Shadow Army? To reshape the world order. Today the battle is no longer hidden. The army of shadows no longer hides, and that means we are closer than ever to the climax of the story written 25 centuries ago. Time in the Bible is not just a sequence of events. It's a sacred architecture, every moment intentionally placed. History isn't chaos, it's a divinely orchestrated drama, unfolding with precision. And he said to me for 2,300 evenings and mornings, then the sanctuary shall be cleansed. Daniel didn't just receive visions. He was handed a countdown, 2,300 days. In prophetic language, one day often symbolizes 1 year. So 2,300 years. But from when? The destruction of the temple. Alexander's conquest? The birth of Christ? Theologians have debated for centuries. But today, as ancient prophecies begin to manifest literally, these calculations demand fresh attention. Let's look at the milestones. 1948. The state of Israel is reborn. After nearly 2,000 years of exile, a nation is resurrected. An event foreseen as the beginning of the last days. 1967, the Six-Day War. Jerusalem once again under Jewish control. And Jerusalem shall be trampled by Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. 1991, the collapse of the Soviet Union. The Cold War ends. A new era begins. But not one of peace, rather, one of disarray. 2001, September 11th. A moment that shattered the illusion of global security. A signal, the world had entered an age of unpredictable, borderless threats. But here's the most striking aspect, not just the events themselves, but their synchronization. In the past 20 years, history has accelerated. Events that once took decades now unfold in weeks. The Arab Spring toppled regimes in months. Brexit fractured the European Union. COVID-19 froze the entire planet. The Ukraine war reshaped global alliances. Each one, on its own, a historical earthquake. Together an unprecedented storm. This convergence cannot be dismissed as random. Prophets always tied the end times to natural disasters. There will be earthquakes in various places, and there will be famines and troubles. In our time, these prophecies have become literal headlines. The last 10 years, the hottest in recorded history. Glaciers melting at record speed. Sea levels rising. Deserts devouring fertile land. And the most terrifying? Extreme weather events. Hurricanes wiping out entire cities. Floods submerging thousands of square kilometers. Fires reducing forests to ash. Australia burns for months. California turns into an inferno. Europe suffers record heat waves. This isn't just climate change. It's the unraveling of the natural balance that sustained humanity for millennia. And there shall be. PESTILENCES. Double quotes. COVID-19 was the first truly global pandemic of our age. In 2 years, millions perished. Economies shattered. Daily life transformed. But that was only the rehearsal. Scientists now warn, worse pandemics are coming. Superbugs resistant to antibiotics could take us back to a pre-modern medical age. Bird flu viruses are mutating, becoming transmissible between humans. Now imagine such a pandemic during global war. Hospitals destroyed. Millions displaced. Healthcare systems overwhelmed. And all this while the global economy teeters on the edge. Inflation at levels unseen in decades. Supply chains broken. Energy crises halting production, and no one can buy or sell except one who has the mark ... double quotes from the book of Revelation. But today it sounds eerily relevant. Central bank digital currencies are being developed worldwide. They allow governments to track and control every transaction. China is already piloting a digital yuan with total surveillance features. The European Central Bank is working on a digital euro. The U.S. is exploring a digital dollar. Picture a world where every purchase is monitored, where your account can be frozen at the press of a button, where dissent becomes economically impossible. Meanwhile, artificial intelligence is growing at exponential speed. ChatGPT, launched in late 2022, reached 100 million users in just months. Neural networks now create text, images, and videos indistinguishable from human work. But the scariest part? How AI may transform warfare. Autonomous drones selecting targets on their own. Propaganda systems crafting custom disinformation for each individual. Algorithms that can predict and manipulate human behavior. And again, the timing. Pandemics. Economic collapse. Climate catastrophe. Technological revolution. Geopolitical upheaval. All of it simultaneously. This isn't just history unfolding. It's a symphony of collapse. Every instrument entering at its appointed time. Daniel saw this performance centuries before it began. There shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation. Double quotes today. Humanity is nearing a point of no return. Climate shifts may become irreversible. AI may exceed human control. Nuclear war could wipe out civilization. But in biblical terms, this is not the end. It's a transformation. The old world must collapse for a new one to emerge. The old human must die so the new can be born. Many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake. A prophecy of resurrection. But could it also be a metaphor for humanity's awakening? The question is, will we awaken before the old world crumbles completely? February 24th, 2022. A date that changed the world forever. At 6:30 in the morning, Kyiv time, Russian missiles began raining down on Ukrainian cities. A war erupted, one that may become the last war in human history. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince who stands watch over your people, and there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, Michael the Archangel, who, in biblical tradition, leads heaven's army into the final battle, a time of tribulation without parallel. Isn't that exactly what we're witnessing now? 2 years into the war, the world has split into two camps. On one side, the democratic West, led by the United States. On the other, the authoritarian East, with Russia and China at the helm. But this isn't just geopolitics. This is a clash between two civilizational models: individualism versus collectivism, liberal values versus traditional order, a multipolar world versus American hegemony. BRICS, the economic bloc of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa now positions itself as an alternative to the West. New members are joining: Iran, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, the UAE. But the most terrifying aspect of this war is its nuclear dimension. For the first time since the Cuban Missile Crisis, the world teeters on the edge of nuclear catastrophe. Vladimir Putin openly threatens to use nuclear weapons. Russian state media casually discusses atomic strikes as if they were conventional tactics. Russia holds the largest nuclear arsenal on Earth, more than 6,000 warheads, enough to annihilate civilization several times over. And that arsenal is controlled by a man who once called the collapse of the USSR the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the 20th century. But Russia isn't the only nuclear power. The United States, China, France, the UK, India, Pakistan, Israel, and North Korea all have nuclear capabilities. And Iran is rapidly approaching the threshold, which brings us to the real tipping point. The war in Ukraine is only a prelude. The real climax is coming in the Middle East. October 7th, 2023, Hamas launches a surprise attack on Israel. Over 1,200 Israelis killed, 250 hostages taken. The bloodiest day in Israeli history since the Holocaust. Israel's response? Devastating. Gaza is reduced to rubble. Tens of thousands dead. Millions displaced. And this is only the beginning. Iran, Hamas's primary backer, threatens a full-scale intervention. Hezbollah in Lebanon prepares for war. Syria, influenced by Russia, could become the launchpad for attacks on Israel. But the Middle East isn't just a religious battleground. It's the heart of global oil production. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait. These nations supply a third of the world's oil. A regional war could block energy exports overnight. Oil prices would skyrocket. Western economies would collapse. Governments would fall. Chaos would erupt. Now imagine this scenario. War in Ukraine continues. The Middle East ignites. China prepares to invade Taiwan. 3 fronts simultaneously. A true world war. Taiwan is key to control over the Pacific Ocean, and it produces 90% of the world's most advanced microchips. Without Taiwan's semiconductors, everything stops. Cars, smartphones, communications, systems. China considers Taiwan a breakaway province and is preparing for military action. President Xi Jinping has set reunification as a goal by 2027. The U.S. has promised to defend Taiwan. Such a war would be the largest naval conflict since World War II. The Chinese Navy versus the U.S. Navy, the 2 largest economies on Earth, in direct confrontation. but World War III won't resemble the previous ones. This will be a war of algorithms, drones, and cyber systems. Autonomous drones like Russia's Lancets, Ukraine's Bayraktars, and Israel's Iron Dome no longer require human operators. They select and destroy targets independently. Humans merely observe a war between machines. Cyberattacks will cripple civilian infrastructure. Electric grids, communication systems, financial networks, these will be battlefields. A nation can be paralyzed without a single shot. The global economy is disintegrating before our eyes. Supply chains broken. International trade shrinking. The world is splitting into rival economic blocs. The U.S. dollar is losing its status as the global reserve currency. Russia and China are developing alternative payment systems. Oil is being sold in yuan, not dollars. Gold is returning as the standard of value. This is not just another economic crisis. It's the end of the Bretton Woods system that shaped global order for 70 years. And here's the chilling part. All of these events align perfectly with biblical prophecies. A war from the north kings of the east crossing the Euphrates, fire consuming a third of the earth, and he gathered them together into a place called in Hebrew Armageddon. Armageddon isn't just a metaphor. It's a real place in Israel. The Valley of Megiddo, a historic battlefield for empires. Today, armies are again gathering near this valley. Russian bases and Syro-American warships in the Mediterranean, Iranian proxies, in Lebanon, Israeli forces on the Golan Heights. The world is teetering on the edge of chaos. One spark is all it would take. A well-placed terrorist attack. A technical glitch. A miscalculated decision. Daniel foresaw the moment of ignition. But news from the east and the north shall alarm him, and he shall go forth in great fury to destroy and annihilate many. News from the east, perhaps the Chinese threat. From the north, domestic unrest. And when the king of the north feels pressure from every side, he goes all in, the final reckoning, the end game, the only question that remains. What comes after the last shot of this war? Will anything of our civilization survive? And more importantly, are we ready for the choice that awaits us all? But your people shall be delivered, everyone who is found written in the book. After the darkest night in human history comes the dawn. After the most devastating war comes peace. After the deepest crisis comes rebirth. The prophet Daniel didn't just see destruction. He saw what lies beyond it. A new world. A new humanity. A new society. But to reach that world, we must pass through the valley of death. Today, we stand at its threshold. The events of recent years are not random crises. They are the birth pains of a new age. The old order is dying. The new one is being born. And birth is always painful. History moves in cycles. The rise and fall of civilizations. Empires born and broken. War and peace. Order and chaos. Each cycle repeats the last, but on a new level. The 20th century began with World War I, continued with World War II, and ended with the Cold War. The 21st century may become the age of the Third World War, the final conflict in human history. But after every great war, the world was never the same. After World War I, 4 empires collapsed. After World War II, the United Nations was born, along with international law. After the Cold War came globalization. What will follow the Third World War? A new world order? a world government, or something entirely different? Technology is advancing at lightning speed. Today, AI systems already outperform humans in many intellectual tasks. In 10 years, artificial intelligence could become smarter than all of us combined. That's the singularity, the moment after which future events become unpredictable. Human minds may no longer comprehend the logic of I. Machines will make decisions we can't understand. Could this be what Daniel meant? And many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, others to shame and everlasting contempt. Perhaps the resurrection of the dead is a metaphor for technological immortality, uploading consciousness into computers, the fusion of man and machine. Meanwhile, genetic engineering is making enormous leaps. CRISPR technology lets us edit human DNA with surgical precision. We can cure inherited diseases, boost intelligence, extend life. But this could also divide humanity into two species, the genetically enhanced superhumans, and the rest, Homo sapiens, and Homo superior. Was this what Jesus meant when he said, "As it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be also in the days of the Son of Man"? In pre-flood times, the Bible tells us, humans mixed with the sons of God and birthed hybrid offspring. Our modern crises demand global solutions. Pandemics, climate change, nuclear threats, cybercrime, no borders can contain them. National governments are powerless. That's why global elites are increasingly calling for global governance. A world government, a world currency, a world army. The so-called Great Reset from the World Economic Forum. But biblical prophecy warns of the danger in such centralization. And all who dwell on the earth will worship him, everyone whose name has not been written in the book of life. Total control, presented as the price for safety. The rise of a system where nothing is private. Soon, every person will face a choice. Will we embrace the new world order for the sake of comfort and stability? Or stay true to our values, risking becoming outcasts? This won't be an abstract choice. It will be personal. Digital IDs, social credit scores, surveillance without escape, a system where every step you take is tracked, every thought analyzed, every action rated. China already built such a system. Millions of Uyghurs imprisoned for their beliefs. A social scoring system that determines whether you can buy a train ticket or get a loan. What if this spreads globally? All in the name of safety from terrorism, pandemics, or climate disasters? And it was given to him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. Resistance to the system will be brutally crushed. Those who refuse to comply will be labeled terrorists, extremists, enemies of humanity. And yet, the prophecy also says, here is the patience and the faith of the saints, those with unbreakable spirit ready to suffer, or even die for what they believe will outlast any system of oppression. History is full of examples. Early Christians defying the Roman Empire. Gandhi against British colonialism. Solzhenitsyn against the Soviet regime. Truth eventually triumphs over lies, but always at a cost. Still, the future is not yet written. Prophecies are not fate, they are warnings. Humanity has a choice between different futures. Scenario 1, total collapse. Nuclear war, climate catastrophe, AI spirals beyond control, Civilization falls. Scenario 2. A global dictatorship. A new world empire that offers peace but strips away freedom. Stability at the price of human dignity. Scenario 3. Spiritual awakening. Humanity emerges transformed. Technology becomes a servant, not a master. A new spirituality bridges religions and cultures. And we already see seeds of this third path sprouting across the world. People are searching for true values. Faith communities are growing. Environmental movements gaining power. Technology is being used for healing, not control. In Ukraine, a nation fights for freedom against overwhelming force. In Iran, women protest risking their lives. In Hong Kong, students resist dictatorship. These acts prove one thing: the human spirit cannot be crushed. The battle between good and evil, light and darkness, freedom and tyranny, it's the oldest story in history. Every generation must choose. Ours is no different, but our choice may be the last one that matters. Technology gives us unmatched power for liberation or for slavery. We can build a society of total freedom or total surveillance. Daniel foresaw how it ends. Then the kingdom and dominion shall be given to the people, the saints of the Most High. The triumph of good is inevitable, but the road to it is paved with suffering and sacrifice. Right now, we stand before the open doors of the future, behind one control and submission, behind another freedom and responsibility, behind a third chaos and destruction. Which one will we choose? Which one will our children inherit? This is not a question for presidents or oligarchs. It's a question for you. Every choice you make, what you buy, what you watch, what you believe shapes the future. We are not powerless pawns. We are the authors of destiny. Daniel's prophecies aren't just ancient texts. They're a map for navigating tomorrow, a warning of dangers, and a message of hope. The army from the north is already on the move. The prophecy is unfolding before our eyes, but the ending? That's up to us. We can watch passively. We can panic and hide. Or we can take responsibility. Start small. Study history so we don't repeat it. Think critically so we aren't manipulated. Stay human in a world growing colder, and many who sleep in the dust of the earth shall awaken. Double quotes. Maybe that prophecy is about now. A time for humanity to wake up. Crises are always catalysts. The darkest hour comes before the dawn. The greatest breakthroughs arise in the hardest times. Maybe the army from the north isn't just a threat. Maybe it's a challenge, one meant to unite us against a true enemy, not a country, but what lives inside us: greed, hatred, fear. Daniel didn't give us easy answers. He gave us questions. He pointed to the path. But the choice is ours. Will the prophecies be literal? Are they symbolic? Can we change what's coming? Each person must decide. One thing is certain: we are living through the turning point of an age, a time that future generations will write about or never know existed. If we fail, the army from the north is advancing. But the real question isn't whether we can stop it. The question is, can we remain human until the very end?